Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome along to Oulton Park for the first of our Porsche action over the course of the day. Round 7 coming up shortly for the Woods Food Services Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup, to give it its full title. You might have been tuning in earlier on wondering where the live stream was. I'm afraid we are running more than a little bit behind time here at Oulton Park. There was a significant incident in one of the earlier races today which caused a large amount of barrier damage. Thankfully, the driver was absolutely fine, but it has taken a while to repair those barriers. Brilliant stuff done by the marshals and the crew here at Oulton Park to ensure that we can go racing. Let me just guide you through the grid and the way that they will line up. Jonathan Lovell starts from pole position, and alongside is Mike Thompson, who has been runner-up in this championship on more than one occasion. Row 2 of the grid sees Scott Adams line up alongside Ashley White, and on row 3 of the grid, that's where we see the man who lies second in the championship standings, Vic Sedera, has for company Perry Darling. It's Sarah Thompson and Eric Bridges that line up there on row number 4. And the fifth and the final row of the grid sees Faye Noble Evans, joined by Phil Graham, who qualified 10th of the cars in the Porsche Boxster Cup, which has slightly reduced numbers here today. Piers Pryor joins me in the commentary box. Piers, after a significant delay following that incident earlier on, nice to get racing, nice to see the Porsches out on the circuit. Yeah, good to get some racing out. Of course, never good to see a car go into the barrier so hard that we have to fix the barriers, but the circuit and the clerk of the course are all happy that everything is good to go. It's great to see the Porsche Boxster Cup out on circuit once again. We've covered it a couple of times this season together, and it's been good racing. I remember a few changes and shots and changes throughout the season, and I'm looking forward to another good race here at what must be an amazing circuit for these Porsche Boxsters to drive around. No, absolutely. So looking forward to this one. Whether we get a second race for them later on today, we're scheduled to have two. Whether we do or not, we really don't know. We're awaiting a revised timetable. Conditions today, they've been changeable. We've got sun here at the moment at Oulton Park. That has not been the case for a good chunk of the day. It's been more than changeable, hasn't it? Yeah, definitely. I remember at one point I was standing at pit entry looking at turn 1, and I was in the sun, and turn 1 was in the pouring rain. So that was interesting, and that's pretty much been the order of the day. British summertime for you, isn't it? That's what it's called, I think. So we'll wait and see. So the cars have made their way onto the grid. That also is classified as their formation lap. 5-second board is held aloft. Jonathan Lovell to the left of your screen. It's a silver car with the red bumpers. Red lights on. 20 minutes on the clock. Lights go out, and it looks as though he gets a good start, better start than Mike Thompson, who was alongside him on the front row of the grid. But the two of them are still side by side as they head up towards Old Hall Corner. Turning their way in towards the right-hander, Jonathan Lovell leads the way. Mike Thompson is there in second place, and it's Scott Adams that's hung on to third. We are side by side for fourth and fifth at the moment. Ashley White fighting away with what I think is Perry Darling as they descend downhill into the very tricky Cascades, which is off camber and downhill on the way in. Difficult corner, that. Yeah, definitely difficult, especially on the first lap when there's cars left, right and centre, but the front two are pulling away. Lovell and Thompson still fighting it out. It looks like it hopefully could go all the way. This one is actually Lovell goes slightly wide through Island Bend. Yeah, slightly wide, wasn't he there, Jonathan Lovell? Good fight going on for third and fourth place, which is the number 55 car of Scott Adams fighting away with Ashley White. Apologies, I think I said it was Perry Darling in the early stages, but it's not. It's the car of Ashley White. Vic Sedera has lost out to Perry Darling, so the number 66 car has dropped to the bottom of the top 6 for the man who lies second in the championship standings, Vic Sedera. That's the white car with the purple bonnet and roof to it, but the race leaders are flicking their way out of the down towards the Hislop chicane, in towards the braking area. Well, they'll turn right and left and then right again as they head through Knickerbrook, and it is Jonathan Lovell that is leading the way at the moment, the man who has claimed the last 5 wins on circuit. So Jonathan Lovell has only not won one race so far this season. That was the very first race of the season. Yeah, and a great run of form at the moment, and continuing that from qualifying after a strong qualifying, although chased very hard, only a couple of tenths ahead of Mike Thompson. Yeah, so up towards Druids, you can see a few little bits of debris, such has been the breeze here, just blowing around. It's just leaves and bark falling off the trees as they head through the daunting double apex right-hander at Druids. Vic Sedera is a bit slow through Druids there, and is now coming under pressure from the yellow car of Sarah Thompson that lies behind. She's going to be not sufficiently close enough, though, to mount a challenge as they head in towards the braking area for Lodge Corner this time through. But Vic, consistent scoring all season. His best result so far has been a couple of second places, but he's only just inside the top 6 at the moment. Yes, Oulton Park, a notoriously difficult circuit to overtake at. It's slightly narrower in areas than a lot of the circuits here in the UK. It widens up over the start and finish, as you can see there, but the
because it's sort of a lot of one line, you kind of almost need to force the driver ahead into a mistake rather than sort of diving up the inside as you may do at different circuits in the UK. So it's a different way of driving potentially, and you saw there our leader Jonathan Lovell right on the edge of track limits there. There is a sensor there as is the exit of turn 1 and I believe the Knickerbrook chicane as well. So despite him pulling a gap on that one of nearly a second and a half, he's going to have to watch out for those track limits, because too many times and you will get a time penalty.
Yeah, and the track limits changed in the early part of June, and that will be the first time that they have raced here since those changes to the track limits were introduced by Motorsport UK. The new limits are no part of your tyre at all can go beyond the white line unless there is a red and white painted curb, and then it can go to the very edge of that red and white painted curb, but again, it cannot go beyond that curb line. If it does, first time around in the race, you get away with it. The second time around, you get a warning. The third time around, you get a 5-second penalty, and so on. It gets worse from there.
Yeah, exponentially worse as well. So it's a small change from before, because I think previously it was the inside edge of your tyre must be inside the circuit boundaries and the curves. Whereas now it's a lot easier for the marshals and the stewards to see from a distance whether a car has left track limits. And basically the drivers have, in theory, should have complete control of their vehicle. It looks like everyone so far further down the field is adhering to those track limits so far.
Yeah, I mean, it was the same case, wasn't it, when the previous track limits were introduced. It took a month or two for drivers to realise you can't get away with it. You know, you will end up picking up the penalties, and we are at the moment seeing everybody just making sure they're driving nice and neat and tidy. And good to see that the circuit now is absolutely bone dry following some of the downpours we've had earlier on today. It is John Lovell that leads, though. He is leading by 1.3 seconds as we continue to look at Vic Sedera fighting away with the number 81 car of Perry Darling. Perry, the man who finished 7th in the championship last year, coming under pressure as they come over the start-finish line.
Yeah, turn 1 is one of those only overtaking opportunities as he looks up the inside, going in late, but no, the 81 there of Darling just going in a little bit narrow to say not this time.
Yeah, he's not going to let him through on that occasion. He was just too far back. Vic Sedera realised that, and sometimes it's just a case of moving around in the mirrors of your fellow competitor to try and put them off. You know, if they're looking in the mirrors, they might just miss a braking point by a split second, and all of a sudden that's the opportunity you need. But it does look as though, if anything, Vic Sedera is that little bit further away now as they work their way along Lakeside at this stage. The lead advantage has grown further. If you look on the left of your screens, it is now John Lovell leading Mike Thompson by nearly 2.4 seconds.
Yeah, and Lovell setting the fastest lap of the race, and probably expectedly on that second lap there, extending the lead out. He was almost a second, in fact, was over a second faster than Thompson in second place. You mentioned there, Mark, you know, it's all about moving around in the mirrors, potentially trying to force the driver ahead into a mistake. It's not only missing a braking point around here, it's even hitting bumps wrong, because there are a few bumps around this circuit and lumps, and if you just hit it wrong, or you've got the wrong brake pressure in the wrong place, it's easy to snatch a wheel and lock up and go wide, or even get a bit of over rotation. I mean, you can see the cars bobbling around through the Knickerbrook chicane there. There's almost no flat and smooth part of this circuit, which is one, why it's so challenging, and two, also why it's such a rewarding circuit to push on.
Yeah, if you get it right, it puts a big smile on your face. Brilliant fight going on for third at the moment. Number 55 silver car with its yellow livery to it in the hands of Scott Adams. Feeling the pinch a little bit from Ashley White that sits behind at the wheel of that very reminiscent livery from Group C cars back in the era. Bounces over the curbs on the inside of Druids to try and get a good run heading in towards the braking area for Lodge. Is Ashley White going to try anything? He jinks out from behind. He's got the inside line. He's late on the brakes. They're side by side through Lodge corner. Is he going to push him wide on exit? No, nice clean overtake. Job done. Ashley White up to third.
Textbook overtake there from White, and did very well, flashing the lights to his team to say I'm through, I'm pulling away now. But that's a great manoeuvre, you know, get a good exit from the previous corner, and then the last corner, which is Lodge, is pretty much the only one where you can sort of send it up the inside from behind, because it's a downhill braking zone, extends the braking area, and it's quite a late apex as well, so it sort of invites you in for an overtake. But no, excellent manoeuvre and great space given there as well by Adams.
Yeah, doing all the white stuff there was Ashley as he worked his way through and ahead, and he now looks to see whether he can open up the gap and pull away from the man he's just taken the place away from, which is Scott Adams. Already it looks as though that number 55 car is falling very slightly further back. We'll need to keep an eye on what's going on further back as well, because Vic Sedera is, by the look of things, no longer applying the same amount of pressure he was applying to the number 81 car of Perry Darling a few laps ago. So remember, Vic lies second in the championship standings. He has finished in the top 6 in every race so far this year, bar one. That was the second of the 2 races on the Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. We're a little bit down on numbers today for varying reasons, but Vic Sedera is still clinging on to another top 6 at the moment, and has not really got a car behind him pressurising him, because he's got about a 4-second gap between himself and the car that lies behind in 7th position, that's the number 90 car of Sarah Thompson. You can see her yellow and red car just coming over Hilltop now.
Oh, there was a bit of a squirm from the car in front shot. Didn't quite catch the number there under the brakes, and you can see how hard they're all braking. And this is a big braking zone into Knickerbrook as well, and Oulton Park is also notoriously hard on brakes. It's pretty much every braking zone is downhill.
Yeah, very much so, isn't it? Yeah, you've got lots of them that are into the downhill areas, so you need to make sure that you are confident on those brakes, but not overconfident, because if you're braking downhill and you miss your braking point, you exacerbate the problem when you try and get the car to the corner. Good fight still going on. Fate Noble Evans, number 20 in 8th place, still trying to keep at bay the aspirations of Eric Bridges, who has been close to her over the course of the last few laps or so, but again, he's not quite close enough to try and wiggle his way through. So for the moment, it's still the black car with its pink livery of Faye Noble Evans that hangs on to the final place inside the top 8.
Yeah, Vic Sedera down in 6th place, pushing on hard. He has actually set the fastest middle sector of the race, even 2 or 3 tenths, no, a couple of tenths faster than our leader, Lovell. Oh no, spin!
Yeah, spin and off and into the barriers, I'm afraid. And that was quite a hefty impact into the barriers for the number 38 car. So Eric Bridges backwards into the barriers, frontwards into the barriers. That's going to have caused damage to both sides of the car. He's trying to get it going, but it stops in the middle of the track, which is less than ideal. And I'm afraid, stricken car in the middle of the circuit that's going nowhere. That is surely going to be, if not a localised yellow as it would be anyway, but might bring about a safety car.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. You can see the yellow flags flashing on the right-hand side, and it was actually right outside our comms box, and we heard the thud as he hit the barrier, and unfortunately went in backwards and then spun around and hit the front as well. So double damage for that car, and unfortunately either stalling it or maybe a clutch or a gear selection issue there means that he can't move on, and because the car is stuck right in the middle of the circuit, yeah. It's clearly caused a safety car.
Yeah, it's because it's gone in backwards, isn't it? That's what's done the damage, and yeah, that is not really what we wanted when we've already had not the Porsches at all, but a few other support races cause incidents, which has caused quite a significant delay in our timetable generally for the day today. And I think from going safety car with that car stricken in the circuit, are we going to stay safety car or are we going red flag? I think red flags are heading out around the circuit, yeah.
Yes.
So we're going to stop the race again, I'm afraid.
That is one of those things where it's the right decision for safety, because of course that car is right in the middle of the road, but disappointing. Hopefully that car will be retrieved fairly quickly, pushed to the pit lane. It's right by pit entry and we can get going very shortly, but we'll keep you updated as we go. That
was sort of that classic pendulum effect in a rear engine car, that once it got sliding for Eric Bridges and it started to have that pendulum effect, it's always really, really difficult then to try and get the car back under control.
Yeah, definitely, and especially because you can see how steep the circuit is there. It drops downhill aggressively and then immediately uphill. So with the undulation change, the car weaving around left and right, you can see the effect there, and it's a tricky part of the circuit, and it was caused by, I think, Bridges getting 2 wheels on the curb, getting on the power a bit aggressively, just a bit of wheel spin over, and the car sort of stepped sideways, and you can see actually evidence of how the incident happened on the circuit with those tyre marks.
Yep, so with the red flags out, all of the cars are being told to slow down. There is the battered number 38 car. You see that damage to the front of it from where it then subsequently spun round. As ever, it was a reasonable impact into the barriers, but you would always expect Eric to be jumping out of the car, no issues at all. You can see him wandering around to survey the damage, and he will be bitterly disappointed with that, because on the basis that the car suffered damage to the front and the rear, and Eric, I think, is one of those drivers that largely does things on his own with his small team around him. There's work to be done if we're going to see that car back out for what is scheduled to be a second race for the Porsche Boxster Cup later on this afternoon. We were expecting him to be back out on the revised timetable that's only just been issued around about 5:35, so there's work to be done, isn't it, if we can get that car repaired, fingers crossed.
I think they're sending them into the assembly edge. That potentially could be it for this race, which is a real shame. Only a small amount of racing for the Boxsters, but yeah, it's been a day of delays.
It has, yeah, it really has, and as I say, it's that's the first time we've seen any Porsches out on circuit in racing conditions. It's just some of these supporting races that have had issues, and now we finally get things back underway after what was nearly a 2.5-3 hour delay for barrier repairs, and unfortunately that hugely unfortunate incident means we got another car stricken in the circuit. Driver's fine, absolutely, but car to recover. A little bit of barrier damage, you can see just off to the right there, right near the marshal's post. You can see the dint in the barrier, so that will be inspected just to check that it is still absolutely fine. If there's any rectification work needed doing, then of course the circuit maintenance team will be on hand to do that, and fingers crossed that won't cause any further delays. And bang on cue, circuit maintenance van arrives, Piers. So, you know, the usual thing, they will inspect those barriers, check that nothing has moved that might compromise the safety, the integrity of those barriers. If there isn't, we go racing again. If there is, there'll be a small delay, a smaller delay, just while we rectify them. But I think we'll be all right, to be honest.
Yeah, hopefully. It wasn't as much as there was a big bang. I think it was more the sound of the arm code than anything moving. It looks like it's upright. Luckily, the car wasn't travelling too fast, and it did hit the barrier, and the bumper probably took a majority of the brunt. But yeah, the circuit team right on the case. Fingers crossed, not too much more of a delay.
No, let's hope not. So cars have all been ushered into the Parc Ferme area, which begs the question as to whether that is going to be it. I suspect that that is because of the amended timetable on my screen. Whilst it's showing red flag on your stream that you can see there, it is showing checkered flag against what we can see on our timing screens here. So I do suspect that that is going to be it for the Porsche Boxster Cup, and hopefully we'll see them back out later on today, because we can't afford any more delays in the timetable with the significant delays that we've already had. So we will have to wait and see.
Yes, we'll wait and see indeed. They've gotten some Armco ready. Whether they end up having to use it is to be seen, I suppose. These guys have been working hard today. They've done a great job on the barrier that was on the inside of Druid's Corner from the previous incident. So they're well practiced if they do need to do anything right now.
They've had 2.5 hours of practice repairing barriers on one side of the circuit. And they were probably just, I would imagine, Piers, sitting down for a well-earned sandwich and cup of tea.
Yeah, they worked all through lunch, didn't they?
They did, yeah, all the way through the lunch break, which was brought forward. And therefore, I think what they're going to do is they've inspected it and realised that it's pushed that central piece of Armco barrier back a bit. So what they're going to do is probably put a diagonal brace in to just make sure that if a car were to hit exactly the same spot, and the odds of that are quite remote anyway, but if a car hits exactly the same spot, at least it's not going to go any further because there's a diagonal brace behind it now. I think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, and all the circuit crew, of course, are working to the. All the circuit crew are working towards the safest option, because it's always about safety, and that is the number one paramount thing for all of the circuit furniture. Because as much as we love racing, we all know motorsport is dangerous, and the circuits and the clubs and the drivers and team or car owners also work as hard as they can to make sure that we are as safe as we can be.
Yep, so Marshall's in the process of just putting down some dust where the car has dropped coolant or oil or something like that, and with the cars having head towards the pit lane. Let's just confirm what are, of course, very provisional results at this stage. John Lovell claims the win. That will mean 6 back-to-back wins for him at the moment. Mike Thompson in second place, with Ashley White completing the podium places. In fourth place, it was Scott Adams. Perry Darling was fifth, and Vic Sedera was in sixth place. Sarah Thompson was seventh, head of Faye Noble Evans. Then Eric Bridges was running in ninth place at the point that he had the incident, so he may well not be classified in the end, as he wasn't running when the red flag came out. And completing the top 10 was Phil Graham, and that's the way it was after what was just 3 laps of racing completed here at Oulton Park by the Woods Food Services Porsche Club Motorsport Boxster Cup. And hopefully we'll see them back out on circuit later on. As a revised timetable has been issued, so we should be back with you live for race number 2 around about 25 to 6 this evening, so 17:35. So thanks for joining Piers Prime, myself Mark Werrell, here at Oulton Park for race 1 of the day. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more to bring you in race 2 later. Goodbye.